Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, more particularly to all shepherds or believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, in Fiji Island, Mexico, Spain, in Africa, and the United Kingdom, and also to our brethren in Australia, and to all the living saints, 144,000 in number, listening right now and viewing this program. May the good Lord bless you and have a wonderful evening. This is our episode number 6 on the subject, the 12 figurative months. Now, here in track number 5 rather, on page 74, it says, in track number 3, the harvest, the time from the baptism of Christ to the close of provision is shown to be illustrated by 12 figurative months. 6 from Christ's baptism to his crucifixion, 5 from the crucifixion to the ingathering of the first fruits, the 144,000 recorded in Revelation 14 verse 4, leaving 1 month for the ingathering of the second fruits, the great multitude in Revelation 7 verse 9. So here in track number 5, page 74, it is particularly mentioned track number 3 concerning the harvest. Now in track number 3, on page 54, it says here, let's read, track number 3, on page 54, the seed sower, the seed, the field, the season of cultivation and growing, and the season of harvest must together be perfectly calculated to illustrate the spiritual kingdom. Otherwise, the representation can only lead into error instead of into truth. First of all, the statement made itself plain. The particular object in view of this subject, the 12 figurative months, illustrated by 3 periods of time: sowing, growing, and harvest, is to illustrate the spiritual kingdom. In other words, brothers and sisters, that unless we will be a part of that spiritual kingdom, there is no possibility that we could be a part of that literal premillennial kingdom, which is the material side, or the literal premillennial kingdom is only the crowning act of the gospel of Christ, which is a reward to those people who became a part of that spiritual kingdom. And accordingly, in track number 3, page 54, that unless these 3 periods of time is perfectly calculated, the illustration can only lead into error instead of into truth. So that statement in track number 3, page 54, the voice of inspiration admonishes us that this very important subject must be perfectly calculated. And there are 2 things that we need to ever remember, brothers and sisters. First, for sure, since the statement says perfectly calculated, track number 3, page 54, without any doubts, the only calculation which is perfect must be the calculation that cometh from God Himself, or we might call it as divine calculation. Or in other words, the mere fact that the shepherd's rod admonishes us that these 3 periods of time, sowing, growing, and harvest, must be perfectly calculated, plainly indicates that there is an appointed time by which God Himself will bestow such knowledge to perfectly calculate these 3 periods of time. Because unless God will bestow such divine wisdom and understanding, there is no possibility that we could arrive in such calculation by which the shepherd's rod called it perfect calculation. And since the character of God, as well as His government and His purposes, as stated in the Great Controversy 594, that unless we understand God's character, God's government, and God's purposes, we cannot honor Him. We can honor God only as we understand His government, His purposes, as well as His character. Now, if you will read 1SR Pocket Edition on page 9, it says here, any thinker knows that to have known the truth of it before time, would have left it as vain, valueless, and ineffective, as would making known the truth about the image of the beast years before or a minute after it does its deceptive work. But at the striking of the foreordained hour, the time inspiration unlocks the mystery. All can behold the truth and profit by it. Happily, we can then intelligently strive to be among this guileless company, and can be sealed with them if we sincerely and steadfastly follow on to know the truth on time. 1SR Pocket Edition, pages 9 and page 10. So, here the Shepherd had made it so plain that when God revealed the truth, that is the appointed time by which God's people can still be profited by such unfoldment of the scriptures, or by such revelation. So in that reading, in 1SR Pocket Edition, pages 9 and page 10, since the particular object in view in this subject is the 144,000 living saints, as stated in track number 5, page 74, saying, from crucifixion to the ingathering of the 144,000. Let us read again, track number 5, page 74. It says, in track number 3, the harvest, the time from the baptism of Christ to the close of provision, is shown to be illustrated by 12 figurative months, 6 from Christ's baptism to his crucifixion, 5 from the crucifixion to the ingathering of the first fruits, the 144,000. Revelation 14, verse 4. Then, leaving 1 month for the ingathering of the second fruits, the great multitude. Revelation 7, verse 9. Now, in this reading, in track number 5, page 74, the 6 figurative months from Christ's baptism to his crucifixion, we no longer need to calculate it because it was already calculated. Or in other words, the 6 figurative months from Christ's baptism to his crucifixion is the given clue in this subject. And we know that from Christ's baptism to his crucifixion, that is exactly 3.5 years, or exactly 42 months, or exactly 1,260 days. Now let us read track number 3 on page 58. It says, the 3.5 years from the beginning of Christ's ministry to his crucifixion, being the sowing time, and the harvest time being the end of the world. Then the intervening period is the time for the growing and also ripening of the grain, also the tare sowing time. Track number 3, page 58. So, among the 3 periods, sowing, growing, and harvest, the given clue is the sowing time, by which, according to track number 5, page 74, that is the first 6 figurative months from Christ's baptism to his crucifixion. And that is from October 16, 27 AD, ended on April 16, 31 AD. And we know that that is within the last 7 years of the allotted time given by God to the Jewish nation. The 490 years, right? Those who are familiar with that subject. The 490 years from October 16, 457 BC, and ended in October 16, 34 AD. Now, I would like to show just simple illustration. We know that the 490 years given by God to the Jewish people covered from October 16, 457 AD, ended on October 16, 34 AD. And from Christ's baptism, October 16, 27 AD, this is the last 7 years, or it is called 1 week, because 1 week consists of 7 days, and in prophecy that is 7 years. And in the midst of the week, that is the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, April 16, 31 AD. It is called in the midst of the week. So it is divided 3.5 years, and this is 3.5 years. The entire period is 2,520 days, by which the division is 1,260 and 1,260 days. So this is called the first 6 figurative months, from Christ's baptism to crucifixion. So that is from Christ's baptism to his crucifixion. So we could be able to study closely this very important subject. So the admonition given by the shepherd's rod, brothers and sisters, that the 3 periods must be perfectly calculated. It must be referred only to the growing and harvest period. Because the character of God, when God gave prophetic time prophecy, there is always a clue. The same with the 2,300 years. Because if there is no clue to base our computation and calculation, then there is no possibility of knowing. So the given clue in this subject, the 12 figurative months, is the first 6 figurative months, by which our calculation must be based on the given clue. The first 6 figurative months are the sowing period. To repeat again, brothers and sisters, the shepherd's rod plainly told us in tract number 3, page 54, that these 3 periods must be together, be perfectly calculated in order to illustrate the spiritual kingdom. And since that spiritual kingdom is the kingdom of Jesus Christ, then for sure, without any doubts, in order for Jesus Christ to illustrate his spiritual kingdom to the people, which is the particular object in view, he himself must bestow such understanding so that they could be able to comprehend and be profited with such spiritual kingdom. And since we already read, brothers and sisters, in tract number 5, page 74, that the particular object in view is the 144,000 living saints. The first fruits, the saints that will no longer to taste death. So, I would like to read this reading in 1 TG number 37 on page 11. It says here, those who are fortunate enough to have this revelation brought to them are the people. There is no other safe conclusion if God causes the prophecies to be written, sealed, and then unsealed at His will, and at the time appointed. 1 TG 37, page 11. So if that wonderful prophecy the 12 figurative months is now revealed unto us this present time, then there is no other safe conclusion, according to that reading, in 1 TG 37, page 11, we are the very people. We are now living in the last generation, by which God promised that if we will be faithful, honest, and sincere, we will be among the saints that will no longer to taste death. So, we need now to gradually decipher this very important subject. Now, I would like to repeat again that the particular object in view in this subject is first pointing to the spiritual kingdom. Spiritual kingdom. And not to the literal kingdom, which is to be established in Mount Zion. Or, in other words, the particular object in view is, first of all, the climactic point of the kingdom of grace before the kingdom of glory will be finally established. Now, in the great controversy,